Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Hangout. I'm your host, Adrian Danila, and I want to start by introducing our sponsors that are making this broadcast possible. They are Kairos and GPS Roof Leak Repairs. With this being said, I'm going to turn it over to my co host, Chris Moreno. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Adrian, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us live on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's exciting today. We have a special friend from the great state of Texas. She joins us today, actually on the road consistently, and has some great secrets and stories she's going to be sharing today. An extensive 17-year history in the multifamily property management industry, and now is the Chief Operating Officer at Bel Air Services and Multifamily Management. She's led asset acquisition efforts. She's really focused in on technology and monitoring performance throughout portfolios. But I think one of the coolest things she shared and is going to talk about today is how she works with teams and bringing out the best in people. And she even shared how I'm going to be really excited about hearing about growing teams and when you have to not just add a few people, but you actually double the size of your team. So a massive thank you to Amanda for joining us today. Amanda Cox, thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, Amanda, I always love hearing the story of how people fall into real estate and especially the multifamily space. Could you share a little bit about your falling into the industry and how you got, a little bit of your evolution of where you got to today in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think that I chose this industry. I think it chose me, like most. I started leasing apartments in college. Many moons ago now, to get my $400 rent monthly covered. I was a community assistant and I just had a passion for it. As soon as I started working in the leasing space, moving up in the industry, I became a property manager at that same property as I was graduating from college, traveled all over to different universities to lease up student properties, and then moved to Austin in 2012. I was with a long-term operator for about 8 years. Moved up to an RVP position and worked with a couple different clients from the institutional space, the value add, pretty much everything except for senior living, and decided a couple years ago to start my own management company. So it's been a whirlwind, a very fast and advanced career, and I'm very passionate about it.
Amanda, what made you decide starting your own management company? And please share a little bit of that part of your journey because it's super exciting.
Yes. So I've been fortunate to have great mentorship and leadership throughout my career. One of my biggest mentors, while I was with the company for almost 8 years, I was with Roscoe Properties, now Roscoe Property Management, from about 4,000 units to over 100,000 units in that span of time. So to be a member of that team and grow and work directly under that leadership and see all of those changes with growth was a very unique experience. And I'm so grateful for it. I learned many lessons there from amazing leadership on how to build a company and how to do it the right way. So I have a lot of confidence from that experience, as well as working, from institutional clients, syndicators along the way. I just thought, as you grow and you become larger, there is more red tape. There is more policies and structure. And I found myself at times being frustrated with that because not every property and every client needs the same thing. And so there are times that I would go rogue and say, this isn't what the property needs. This is what I want to do for them. And I found that it's hard to do that whenever you're with large companies, and you have to respect the departments and the support that's there. But that was something I was really passionate about starting my own company, because I thought there is a way to meet all of those needs, to service my clients, the residents, the experience of multifamily, but to do it in a way that I could be more nimble. And so that's what I'm really passionate about as a small business. We have about 2,000 units under management that I can go to the properties. I can change policies. I don't have to do the same thing for everyone. And we're in a tough environment in the multifamily space right now. I think that being really focused and being able to adapt is important to reach the goals for the properties.
And obviously you're doing so many different things. Like you said, you've got well over a couple thousand units. So a little bit in your current role at Bel Air, can you share a little bit maybe what a typical day looks like, or a atypical day looks like? Maybe some of your favorite days or some of the things you really enjoy doing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, one thing I love about this industry is no 2 days are the same. And so I have been fortunate and been on the road quite a bit to see all of my teams. I like to spend about 40% of my time on properties, working with our teams, working with the leadership, and giving direct coaching. Because this is an industry that you have to learn by experience, making mistakes, having good wins. But really, our teams don't have great structure when it comes to the educational piece. I think there is, of course, technology and support to grow your experience in the industry. But being hands-on is something that I really value, being able to have that face time with my team. Outside of that, on the structural and strategic side, most of that happens outside of business hours. I call that my second shift. Like after everyone else's day is over and I have a little bit of quiet time to work with my performance coach, to work with my leadership team on what our goals and objectives are as we move forward, and build out more of the strategic side. But yeah, I'm constantly on the road. I'm with my teams a lot, and I'm just really loving this moment in my business because I do have the ability to do that. I know that won't look the same at 5,000 units, at 15,000 units, but it's really special and intimate right now.
Amanda, you shared with us before going live that you're currently managing 16 properties. At the starting point, how many properties did you have when you first started your company? How many properties were under management you took at once?
We had 5. And those were the properties of my business partner in Bel Air Multifamily Management. And he has been a sponsor in real estate for over a decade. He's owned over 3,000 units and gone full cycle on most, but had a portfolio of about 1,100 units that we started with. And he was formerly one of my clients in the third party space. So we knew each other, had experience working together, decided to vertically integrate and bring his services in-house. So that's where Bel Air Real Estate Funds then became Bel Air Multifamily as the sister company. And then we started with his properties and then grew into third party from there. And since then, my business partner has bought new deals. We've sold deals. We're under contract on a deal in Dallas right now, which is really exciting, especially given the current market to have a deal under contract. We're really, really pumped about that. And then my third party business has been fully referrals. All people I've known in the business, brokers, just really working my network on behalf of organic marketing. And if I'm the right fit for a potential client, and we just see where, those opportunities take us. So that's brought a little over half of our portfolio now to the company over the last about year and a half now.
I have a follow-up question here, Amanda. Tell us a little bit about the challenges and the opportunities during the scaling period, right? Because you double the size from when you started to where you are today. You're about double the size. Could you share some of the challenges of like scaling, doubling the size of a company?
Yes, absolutely. So part of that big growth was us taking on a large portfolio of almost 800 units and close to 30 employees. And so that was a huge catalyst for us. It's one thing to take on one property and onboard new processes, new structure. It's another to do that and multiply it times 5. So we really had to utilize all of our internal resources. We have a mentorship program internally where we have seasoned team members that are there to be a right hand to new team members onboarding with us. I also am not afraid to ask for help I've brought in some consultants and some support as well, to do some of the things that we know need to be done, but might not be the best fit for myself or for someone else in the leadership team. And we've, this is actually a new takeover. We just have been there a little over 30 days. So we're very much so still building out this process and finding the right people in the right seats. But a huge part of our ability to scale is because we do have a lot of leadership in our company. That's one thing I believe in, is building the bench, because the units will come. Structure and a solid foundation of a business is very important, to where you're not stretching your team so thin that we couldn't take on a large assignment. I would say that we probably feel a little bit more stretched and thin now with this takeover, because of the size, but we've brought in that additional support. And on a leadership basis, for the number of units that we have, we're pretty heavily stacked, but that's by design, because I know that those team members are needed for us to, keep the growth moving forward. And I think with new properties, we're always looking at what additional hands that we're going to need. And I'm very intentional about not having too many properties on my regional managers. That's one pain point in this industry, is that regional managers can have 10 properties and there's no way they're seeing their teams every week. Like, you're lucky if they come to the property once a month. So that's one thing that I have thought a lot about in our leadership structure. And part of the reason why we are a little heavy on leadership compared to number of units, because I can't treat a property by, this is 100 units or this is only 6 properties. Because what if 2 of them are lease ups? One of them's a struggling property going through renovations. I have to treat those properties like they're more than just one or that number of units. So it's not uncommon for us to have a regional manager, for instance, with 4 properties, but those 4 properties might act like 6 to 8. So bandwidth, and scaling appropriately is something that's really important for the ability to receive growth opportunities and to take them on successfully.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously having great happy customers, or that's your best, always going to be your best source of great new customers and referrals. And you talked about that, so I'm curious to know, like, do you find spending a lot more time in person? Like, are you traveling a lot to go meet new potential customers and do those referrals, or are you doing it remotely nowadays? Like, or is it a combination? Can you share a little about like how you do that business development? Maybe it's a little more unorthodox than others.
Sure. Well, I am our business development person. So I will say it can be challenging wearing a lot of hats. I will say I could do better at doing more outreach with business development. I've been fortunate that these opportunities have come through relationships, and like, this property is struggling. They don't have local leadership. Is this something you'd be open to? A lot of these opportunities have come because of a lack of meeting a need with another operator, or they've been properties that have been managed by a company that didn't have local leadership. And I think that owners recognize the importance of that. When you don't know the vendors, the employees, the submarket intimately, you can't manage from behind a computer. So I do mostly try to meet with these leads and potential clients in person. I always go to shop the properties. I can pull CoStar. I'm looking at the submarket. I'm looking at opportunities. And my last 3 takeovers on the management side have been by me being a resource to these owners and giving suggestions. It was never a hard pitch, because I think if you're a resource and you bring value, that the business will come. And so these have been pretty unique in the chance that I said, okay, well, let me look at financials. I'd love to share some feedback with you, and came back with some recommendations. Turns out that those recommendations weren't put to use with the recommendations that the client had made over to the management company. And then just time has to pass. Like, that's something that's not in my control. Right timing for the right type of property and opportunity. And those deals ultimately came to me at a later date. So I'm constantly helping with underwritings. I'm looking at budgets. I'm helping make value add plans, giving recommendations for vendors. And those relationships just take time to develop, and I just keep making those deposits into the bank. Essentially, I'm like, one day you're going to close a new deal and it'll be ours to work together. So I haven't really done any selling of the management company. It's just been, does this feel good? Do we think we could work together well? Do you think I could bring value to you? And that's led to new management assignments.
Before going to my next question, I do want to thank all of you in the audience for joining us today. And please take a minute and drop a comment in the box. Let us know where you're watching us from. And also tell us if you have questions for Amanda. We're going to watch the comment boxes and we're going to take your questions, right, for Amanda. Now, Amanda, in growing your business, how important is networking? Do you find networking being important in building new relationships, getting new leads, like getting in front of new ownership groups?
I do. Yes. And I try to stay committed to local events, which are my portfolio's Dallas down the 35 corridor to San Antonio. So there may be, apartment educators events or different, multifamily groups events that are taking place, or investor meetings. I like to go to those. Mostly the ones that are smaller and a little bit more intimate, not like presentation style. But I've been able to meet quite a few great connections that are in all different cycles of their real estate journey. Some that have never closed a deal and are actively looking, some that have large portfolios. But I do specialize with this company in serving the syndication space. And so I find that meetup groups have been very valuable for me, because I'm not in a position where I'm working with institutional clients that would be with larger management companies. So I think I'm in a really nice niche where there's not a lot of people that are looking at distressed deals, at REO opportunities, and the true, C value add space. So it's been really beneficial for me to get out and grow my network and meet some referrals from that.
That's great, and I'm kind of curious to know, as you mentioned, meeting with these different groups, everyone's got different expectations and demands. Like, how are you thinking and seeing, the needs for technology and resident expectations? How are you seeing those evolve, and the impact it's having on your business?
I think it gets harder every day. I think the expectations are higher. Obviously, technology is a beautiful thing. We've leveraged it. We continue to, and that will continue to evolve in the industry. I think when it comes to key performance indicators, those will not change, though. We need money in the bank. We need occupancy. We need a good tenant demographic. We need a business plan that's going to be executed. And you have to be nimble, because the market does change. And I love utilizing technology. We have several different programs internally that we utilize. We also have vendor partners that are in the tech space. I will say, though, I personally don't think it will ever replace you and I, like a live human on the other side, because we are in a customer service business. And I do believe in centralization and areas that we can better support. And some of those are driven by payroll savings opportunities and efficiencies. But I really still believe that these teams need to be on site. They need to be working relationships with our residents and face to face with them. So we've leveraged technology for after hours, when our business hours are, not open in the offices. Sundays, while our offices aren't open, we do virtual tours. We have some AI integration, but we really do try to keep it as much as we can with that human touch.
You're on mute, Adrian. Just a heads up.
I was wondering if it was just me.
If you're not on mute one time during a podcast, you're not doing it right. So I want to stay a little bit on technology, and in context of 2019, 2020 with COVID hitting, there was a lot of technology that was developed as a substitute for in-person interactions. And now here we are 4 or 5 years later with a lot of technology that's available, that's been built. what is your process of vetting technology? What is the proper technology? How much technology is too much for your company?
Oh, that's a great question. So, one thing that I prioritize is that a vendor partner in the tech space can integrate with our current software. So, we use a property management software called Entrata. And what I like about Entrata is that they offer a lot of services within their, I will call it a bundle. You can do resident verification, you can do ID checking, you can do, master insurance, resident insurance options, collections. These aren't API integrations with several different companies. They're actually all baked into my one platform. And I think that from many conversations with friends in the industry, what I've found is that there's a lot of technology, and sometimes our teams are just overwhelmed. Like, how many dashboards? These programs aren't talking to each other. And I've been really skeptical of bringing in new technology if it wasn't already partnered with Entrata, because I don't want my teams to get distracted and then I don't see as much productivity. So we've utilized some of those partnerships that are with Entrata currently. I am still vetting some others. I think there's an opportunity to bring in an AI tool that will help with touch points along the resident's experience and just kind of warm that up to the renewal and giving some more surveys and touch points that may be unrealistic for my managers to pick up the phone and make those calls, but this could be a supplement to. I am open to further exploration with those. I just think there's a lot of options out there, and I can't say that I'm a fan of a lot of them. I think that it's important to vet what's right for your organization and to keep the end user in mind, which is our on-site team. So if I'm going to make a commitment to bring in a new partner, I'm having a conversation with my on-site teams about if it's something they like. Would they see that it's useful? Because I don't work on a property. And that is who I'm here to support, is the efficiencies of our on-site team. So everyone needs to have buy-in for you to be successful with any new rollout. I think with technology, that's definitely something that's important to me. And I'll also share that that's really important with maintenance, because I have great maintenance guys that do not want to get on a computer. They don't want to order HG supplies. They don't want to close out their work orders. They want to work on the AC. And so that is something I really value. And it can be difficult to push a team member to become more user friendly with applications. And at times it can affect how you progress through the job. So you really have to think about that. And like, I have a lot of Hispanic speaking employees that would prefer an app to be in Spanish. So that's also something I want to think about. You know, what are my teams going to use, and how do I make this a smooth process that benefits everyone?
So it sounds like on the AI side, you're really looking to embrace it to help your different teams, especially if there's a shortage of labor. I'm curious to know, like, how do you think about that centralization? How big is a centralization to you all of taking those things, especially with the labor shortages? Has that been, has AI and centralization helped, or do you still see a big gap there?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I think we're all struggling for the best talent. I do think there are challenges with retention. I don't know where I saw this. I'm nerdy. I love podcasts and I read a lot of articles and stuff. I saw somewhere that the industry turnover since the pandemic is like 35% or something. So if I contextualize that, I'm going to turn my whole company over in 3 years. It's crazy. And I think that you have to offer, growth opportunities for your teams, educational opportunities to keep them. And it's tough. It's tough to recruit, and it's even more expensive to replace. So I am, interested in how I can utilize third-party relationships to support or to offload some of the administrative responsibilities that my teams have. And I'll give a specific example of that. We took all of the invoice processing off of our on-site teams, and we utilize a partner in Mexico that all of our invoices go to, and we have an invoice approval process. So our hands are in the process for approvals, but we're not actually receiving invoices, pulling utility bills, recording everything into the system. That's been an area of centralization my teams have really appreciated. We also are utilizing some of that technology to support with setting up tours, some of those touch points, but really bringing everything back to the current leadership to say, like, how do I bring that traffic in? And then what do I do to convert it from there?
Amanda, you went from being a leader in a very large multifamily group to becoming an entrepreneur, opening up your own shop. What are some lessons that you learn along the way in becoming an entrepreneur that you like to share with others that are considering starting or are just at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey?
It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most rewarding. I think that this industry is tough, and you can't say that you're showing up every day for the paycheck because it takes a lot of passion and purpose behind being an entrepreneur. But I'll say my lessons learned are probably more of the things I did wrong in my career than the things I did right. Some of those lessons can really sting along the way. But I've just found that you've got to be open with your team members. You need to empower people. I think most of the time our teams, they meet the bar. They want to do more. They want to be invested in and growing. So I've just tried to be open-minded about that and understand that I don't have all the answers. And that's okay. I just have to be resourceful. I have to find the right mentorship and continue to be mentored, especially as an entrepreneur, because I don't have that leadership that I always had in large management companies to call or walk into their office. I am that person now for my team members. And so it's really gratifying. It's just a different type of experience to be able to pour into others than to be the one that was being poured into for so long. But I do still actively seek that type of mentorship to continue my growth forward. I think everyone needs to be supported. You just have to find like what that looks like for you and where you are in your journey.
Yeah, I think a lot, you mentioned the coach, you mentioned, coaching others, coaching yourself, mentoring. I'm kind of curious to, I have a personal board of advisors now. I've kind of built out some people who are in unique spaces and have great ways they can help me. And I'm curious to know from you, like, could you name some names of some people who maybe had a big impact on your life, who maybe mentored you or made a significant impact? And feel free to share names if you like.
Sure. So one of my biggest mentors in the business is now retired. She was the executive vice president at Roscoe. Her name's Angelique Goodenough. She was in the industry for many years, was the first CPM woman in Austin, was very big about us getting education, being a part of something bigger than where we were with the company, staying abreast of news outside of just property management, but what was going on in the world. She really pushed me and grew me to be an amazing leader. I think when I think through my career, like some of my highest highs and lowest lows, she was a part of and really believed in me. And so I think I've modeled quite a bit of the leadership that she had. The bar was high, but she always gave you a ladder on how to get there and was a very personable person. So appreciative of her. And then another one of my mentors who's actually working in a consulting capacity for me now, his name's Stephen Ray. He was in the property management business for many years. And he's now on the AI side. And I'm really excited to watch his journey and for him to support me as an entrepreneur now. So two of those team members, I'd say they are probably the biggest influence and cheerleaders for me as I grew in the business.
Amanda, you mentioned mentors that you had or you currently have, and you also mentioned leadership. What are some top qualities for someone to become a leader in a multifamily space?
They need a lot of them. I actually took a note of a few of these because I didn't know if I remember them all. So first, I'll start with customer service. because we are customer facing all the time, whether that's a client or an investor, because I'm, on the acquisition side as well. So we have investors with our company. It could be a resident, a vendor. So that's something that I think is really critical. You have to be a personable person and invest in those relationships. Also, attention to detail. I think that we probably had a good decade of really great a really good market where you could be like an okay manager and do well on your deals. That's not the case now. I think really being able to scrub financials to look for the opportunities, that detail orientation is really important. Problem solving, we know no day is the same, so you have to love to do that as well. Time management is another. I think being organized and how you organize for yourself could be different than someone else, but having tools that you can depend on, because there's probably 100 plates spinning at a time and you have to be able to keep them all going. And the last I wrote on my list is patience. Maybe a counselor at times.
That's awesome. I think, it's always interesting, like that tool belt of the things you can learn and things you'd be curious about. And I think looking forward, like thinking about the things you're most excited about or curious about in terms of trends, like what are you anticipating in the industry what are you thinking about in your long-term, maybe your 3-year or 5-year? Are there certain trends you're looking out for or that you're starting to get ahead of now or think are going to make a big impact on the industry?
Sure. So right now, and probably for the next at least 12 months, we're really in survival mode. I don't have the crystal ball. I've heard the term like survive to 25. And when I went to NMHC earlier this year, it was like, well, let's make it to 2026. Like there's not a lot of optimism in the immediate term. It's really hold the line, stay as occupied as you can, keep expenses low. There's not a lot of elective rehabs going on. We're really cautious about reserves and just being as effective in our management as possible. But I think that there will be cycles. This will come up. There are opportunities right now, especially in the acquisition space. I think there is a lot of dry powder and they're looking for good opportunities. And I've seen some deals that I saw last year, or let's say 18 months ago, that are coming at probably a 20 to 30% discount back on the market today. And I think that basis correction is exciting. That is an opportunity to purchase a property at a discount. In some cases, it may not be enough of a discount. The loan balance, for instance, may be higher, but I'm not sure where the bottom of the market is. I don't think any of us could time that. There is a lot of distress though. And I think lenders are making some extensions. Our clients are capital calling. I keep hearing the term like we're extending and pretending. We just don't know. You don't see the cards of everyone and what's going on in their deals. So I would say that's kind of like my lens of what's happening on the acquisition side. I'm not seeing a lot of transactions in the market, and I think that there will be more coming online and likely a little bit later this year from what I'm hearing from the brokers into next year. But I do think that there will be some suppression on pricing because of that. On the management side, really, I'm just like I shared, I'm just trying to hold on right now. I'm trying to be effective and efficient. I think what's a great strategy for someone growing in a business is just to bring in the support. And I talk to my teams constantly about bandwidth and about burnout, because I don't want someone to burn out on my team. At that point, it's already too late. The resources should have been brought in. We should have been talking about offloading things or bringing in additional support. So I believe in being forward and vulnerable as a leader like that. I didn't have leadership that was like that for me. Like I didn't really know a lot about what was behind the curtain. I just thought they always had it figured out and they always had an answer for something. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to be vulnerable in ways and talk to your team and let them be a part of those solutions. And I think that as a management company, we need to just be competitive. We need to be nimble, make changes real time as the market changes. But I think strategy and like what's to come is really going to depend on rates. Are we going to rate hike? Are we going to have some cuts? I think a lot of there's a lot of sentiment around the market, and I just think we're in a very interesting time. And how that happens on the ownership and acquisition side is what will affect business plans and how management companies operate to meet those business plans for the owners.
Before asking the next question, just want to remind all of you in the audience that we're taking questions. So please type up your questions in the comment boxes, and Chris and I will keep an eye on those, and we'll ask the questions on your behalf. Amanda, next question for you is regarding the labor shortages. I have a theory, and I'm not gonna get too wide on this, but my theory is that within our lifetime, businesses will expand at a higher rate than the population will grow. In other words, this is going to be a challenge in perpetuity. If that would be the case, right? What are some things that we could do as an industry, and what type of strategies are you deploying to overcome this particular challenge within your company?
I'm a little stumped. I think that you're right. I agree with that. I think that the way that you approach that depends on really how you lead and like the culture of your company and the things that you're willing to offer, especially to keep good talent, the people that are with you now and who you're going to attract with your company. If we're able to keep turnover lower, I think that we have a good opportunity. But I do think that that's part of the challenge is there's a lot of options. There's a lot of people that are leaving the industry. It's not the same. And I think it's because it's harder. It's harder now than it was last year, pre-COVID. So yeah, I agree with that. I think that as leaders, we need to be considering, how we make our company and keep our company attractive. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One thing that we do at Bel Air is we offer coverage for our employees' health insurance. And we do the employer and employee coverage. We always encourage our teams to be in a healthcare policy. And that's kind of like a raise for them because they're not having anything taken out of their paycheck. We also have some internal abilities to give them classes. We have partnerships like with IREM and the local institutions that can help them with growing their experience outside of what we teach personally in our business. And I have gone through several of those classes personally, which is why I am so passionate about them, through the Austin Apartment Association, the National Apartment Association, the Institute of Real Estate Management. I think that you have to drive value in other ways than just the paycheck or the PTO policy, because that's, what keeps people around. And I think I care so much about this as a small business, especially working with a large management company before, a few of them, because whenever I was in a big company and had 15,000 units, if I had a property sell or something, we had a property go away out of the portfolio, I was like, okay, well, we'll move you down the street, or we have something new coming online. Let's give you a promotional opportunity. That's not the case when you have 2,000 units. Like every deal that's coming on is a growth opportunity for me to promote someone in my company to take on a new challenge or to bring on new people and have an opportunity to cultivate them and, pour into them in this industry. And I think that those things are really important. I am so aware of that as a small operator that I think I put more pressure on myself personally to deliver what my teams need so that they don't leave. And I hope the only time that I get a notice is for an opportunity for one of my team members to go and do something that I couldn't offer them. That would be the ultimate goal.
That's great. And yeah, you didn't get stumped at all. We did awesome on that one. I'm curious, as you mentioned IREM and getting active, you were the Austin chapter president at IREM and the Institute of Real Estate Management, obviously involved at NAA, Austin Apartment Association. in thinking about like initiatives that you got involved with, and people that are thinking about getting involved and have gotten involved at different levels, there's so many opportunities. How do you think about getting involved, number one? And then maybe like what kind of events do you get involved in and throughout the year? There's certain events you make sure you're a part of, whether it's local or nationally.
Yeah. I actually was voluntold into a leadership position by one of my mentors, and I'm so grateful for that. I didn't think I was ready for it, but sometimes going into these organizations, if you don't have contacts and connections, getting involved in volunteering is the way to grow your confidence in those spaces. I've been to some real estate events that I knew no one in the room. It's a lot harder to be in a space like that than one where you know people. And I have forced myself out of my comfort zone, and many times to grow those relationships and to be a part of those organizations. And you get out of them what you put into them. And I will say I started my membership in IREM in 2013, I believe. I was president of the Austin chapter in 2020. And I'll tell you, we had a lot of initiatives, but COVID killed them all. We went from a very productive and like prestigious chapter that was always, getting awards nationally, and the bar was high, like going into a leadership role there. And COVID happens, and we're like, well, we just have to pivot. Everything's going online. It was such a big year of learning. And I had goals as a president, and we have a strategic initiative for the chapter on what we bring to the local organization and to our members. But all of it, kind of went away. I think the biggest thing that we learned that year was we have to survive this, and we have to pivot, and we need to stick together. And so I'm really grateful that even though I had, a laundry list of aspirations for that year, that I am glad I was the president that year. I think I handled it well. I wasn't so focused on checking those boxes as I was just, this is you and me. Like, how are we going to support each other through this? And so many changes happening in our industry at the time. I've been blessed to be a part of making investment committees with organizations, starting a diversity inclusion committees, giving tons of scholarships. I'm so passionate about the organizations and being a part of that. So as a leader, I always want to encourage that my teams are going out to luncheons and being a part of these events. I think the fun ones, like the golf tournaments and things like that, are always great too, to get out of the office, get some sunshine, and meet with some people that you might not know. I always walk away with a new relationship when I get out and network like that. And I will say just my confidence in myself, because I invested in the education, because there's so much that you can learn with a company that could have a great training program, but having an experience of being in a room with other people, other operators, different companies, you always bring something away that you can share with your organization. And it made me feel confident as I grew in those designations and certifications over time, and how they were looked at externally. That's something that I, have continued to mentor and support people going through that journey, because I think it did make me feel a lot more confident, that even when I had like a couple letters behind my name, I was like, oh, this is great. I want to keep going. And I recognize how you were given opportunities while you showcase those skills. And sometimes that could be, a couple letters behind your name, but it was always much bigger than that for me. And like I said, I believe that you get out of it what you put in, and I couldn't promote the local chapters here in Austin enough. So anyone that's watching that's here locally, if you don't have connections in those organizations, I'd love to support you with that. So feel free to reach out to me.
Amanda, what advice would you give to someone that's looking to start a career in multifamily and property management?
To buckle up. It's a wild ride. I think it's a beautiful career. I'm fortunate that I was able to get in really young, and I have a lot of experience for my age. I'm 36 currently. So to be in this position is a huge fast track with the right opportunities and right time. And I think that it's never too late to join this industry. It is a industry that you have to start from the bottom and touch each position as you grow. But I've brought people from service industry into this type of role, or we've gone to trade schools and brought new team members that are coming out of, getting a new skill set like welding or HVAC, electrical. So I'm passionate about being able to support in that. And I think that when I got into the industry many years ago, I didn't know much about property management. I think there wasn't as much awareness out there about this industry. And there were many times when I've said I'm in real estate and someone's like, "Oh, you sell houses." And I'm like, "No, I'm in property management." So I think that there's universities now, there's much more education and awareness around it. But I think that will hopefully bring in new generations of talent into our industry. But it's up to us to have those conversations and to say, "I think you'd be really good at this. Like, have you thought about coming into this industry?" And I think if you get in and you love it, you typically stick around. But you'll also know if you get in and you hate it. And I would say don't stay for that.
You get to see a lot of unique syndications and types of properties throughout Texas, and in the different cities you've been in. I'm curious, like, you're pretty passionate, I can tell, about serving others and working with your different clients and residents. Do you have any stories you could share about that from the field of some of your actual interactions of the team that maybe have made a big impact on your life?
Yeah, I think that I have many that are popping up in my mind. I think generally, though, being able to support someone through their growth in the industry has been probably one of the most rewarding. I have team members and throughout my career that started in leasing and are now 4 or 5 positions above that. And I love LinkedIn to be able to keep up with them and to celebrate them along the way. I see that that's such a beautiful thing, because it's one thing to be the one that like receives accolades and gets recognition in organizations. It's another to be the one that gets to give those and to celebrate them. And so that's probably the most rewarding to me. Is I feel like I have so many good relationships in the industry that I could really go anywhere and call someone that I know, and I get to see, how they've grown over time, and to be that sounding board if they might not be comfortable going to their direct supervisor to ask a question, but they're like, "I want to hear from someone else in the industry or someone that I trust that will shoot me straight." I like to be able to be that person as well, and trust me, I need it back too, Chris. So I definitely love that I have that relationship with others, and that they have the same with me as well. But just seeing people grow in general is amazing.
Amanda, the journey at the top could feel lonely at times. What's helped you keep going throughout your career, operating from the top?
My coaches, I would say, we talked about mentorship. I have some really solid mentors and people like my friend Stephen Ray I was telling you about that is consulting with me now. Um, I have a high performance coach. Her name is Sierra Bearden, and she's been wonderful. I've been working with her for a couple of years, and we meet and talk about strategy, some wayfinding type of sessions, others about just maximizing skill sets in certain ways. And I really think that's necessary. I can't say that I could pick up the phone and call another chief operating officer at another company and have a transparent conversation. I wish that was the case. And I wouldn't say that there's necessarily gatekeeping in the industry, but I don't think that those types of relationships on a leadership basis are, I don't think that they're as strong as like how many I had whenever I was younger in my career. So I think having somebody that can be there to support me professionally is so worth it. I tell Sierra all the time, she's never breaking up with me. I don't care where I'm going, I'll always need her. And so, yes, I really think that that's critical. I would recommend that for anyone. But I also go to different meetups and real estate events where I make a point to be a part of like the women's leadership group, or, meeting other people in the industry, especially other women that are in leadership roles. I've found that that has been really valuable for me as well. I was just at a organization event in Dallas, IMN, a couple months ago, and I met one of the managing directors for Greystar, over several hundreds of thousands of units, and she was amazing to meet. And that is the largest multifamily operator. I'm over here probably the smallest operator in that room, and she treated me like an equal. We connected. She said, "Here's my card. I'd love to talk with you anytime." The very different type of company, but we all do the same kind of work. And that's inspiring to me, because I don't think that it's true that people want to keep knowledge behind the vest. I think you have to make an effort, though, to be bold and to have those conversations and to be vulnerable, because I've found the more I've opened up, the more I've received back in return as well.
This is great. I've really enjoyed this. And a question I have is, I'm learning a lot about legacy right now, and the type of legacy we want to leave, and build. At the same time, you're building legacy, you're passing legacy as you pass the torch. How do you think about legacy, and what do you want people to think of with Amanda Cox when they think of your name, and the impact you've had on others?
I would say that I was kind and that I gave opportunities. I'd say that was probably it. I hope it's not that I worked really hard. I don't want that on my tombstone. But I think that having an open door policy, being a personable person, no matter where I'm at, I want my teams to feel like they could come to me, that I provide empathy, I'm understanding, I also push, and I want to see the best in them. And so, yeah, I hope that's the legacy I get to leave behind.
I love that. That's great.
Amanda, this was a lovely conversation. We were so grateful to have you here today. In closing of our episode today, what are some thoughts that you would like to leave with us, with the audience, or maybe like answer a question you wish we would have asked and we didn't?
Oh, I think you asked so many great questions. I can't think of anything. I would love to just share some parting advice, though. First, thanks for coming and being a part of this. I think what Adrian and Chris and his team are doing is awesome. So very honored to be here. My advice I would give is that to always keep learning and to never be afraid to reach out and to ask someone to support you. You just never know what you're going to get back. And I have found that being big and bold in ways has been really beautiful for my career. And I think that as intimidating as it can be at times to, seek that type of support, I think you'll be met with kindness and with someone that really does feel honored to be able to give back to you. So this is an industry that you can't stay stagnant. It's always changing. We have to change with it. And there's so many great resources out there, including this podcast, that you should be tuning into and staying abreast of what's going on in the industry. So always keep learning out there.
Chris Moreno, any final thoughts, sir?
This is awesome. Thanks. It's always great to see. We had dozens of people in the audience who are here live and engaging. So you've got a big fan club, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your insights and your secrets. And I love how you said, people don't want to necessarily hide stuff from the chest, but I really appreciate you sharing your stories and being vulnerable with us. And I look forward to seeing you again in real life very soon.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you very much, everybody, for watching us today. I want to thank our sponsors from Kairos and GPS Roof Leak Repairs for making this broadcast possible. We hope to see you back here soon, next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Multifamily Hangout, and we're signing off for today. Have an amazing afternoon.
Bye.